Early Qing rule in Taiwan, order, expansion, and tensions, 1683 to 1800. Good morning everyone. Today, I want to take you back to the late 1600s, a time of dramatic change for Taiwan. After decades of being ruled by the Zheng family, Taiwan was finally brought under the control of the Qing Dynasty in 1683. But what happened next? How did the Qing govern Taiwan? What policies did they use? What challenges did they face? And how did the island and its people change in the first century of Qing rule? Over the next hour, I will explore these questions by looking at key areas: political administration, population and land development, military strategy, social tensions, and the long-term effects of this early period of Qing governance. 1. Taiwan becomes part of the Qing Empire. In 1683, after the defeat of the Kingdom of Tungning, the Qing dynasty faced a big decision. Should they keep Taiwan or abandon it? Some Qing officials wanted to give up Taiwan because they thought it was too far, too wild, and too hard to control. But others, like Shi Lang, argued that Taiwan was important for national security and trade. In the end, the Emperor Kangxi agreed to keep Taiwan, and in 1684, he officially made it part of the Qing Empire. Taiwan was placed under Fujian province and was governed by a special regional official called the Taixia Circuit Commissioner. A new administrative system was created, dividing the island into Taiwan, Fengshan, and Zhuluo counties. This system copied much of what had existed under the Zheng regime. This decision marked a major turning point. Taiwan was now part of China's imperial system, for better or worse. 2. Cautious and defensive governance. Even though Taiwan was now part of the empire, the Qing didn't fully trust it, or its people. Their early attitude was rule Taiwan to prevent problems, not to develop it. Here are a few things they did to limit potential risks. Officials sent to Taiwan could not bring their families, and their terms were limited to 3 years. Soldiers rotated every 3 years, and they couldn't bring wives or children either. The Qing banned the building of stone walls or permanent city fortifications. Trade of iron tools was limited, to prevent rebellion. They created separation policies between Han settlers and indigenous peoples, banning settlers from moving into indigenous lands or marrying indigenous women. These were all signs of distrust and caution, showing that the Qing saw Taiwan as a risky, unstable region. 3. Land and population control. Despite restrictions, more and more people kept moving to Taiwan, mostly Han Chinese migrants from Fujian and Guangdong. The Qing government tried to stop this illegal immigration, but they couldn't. Soon, Taiwan was full of new settlers looking for farmland and opportunity. To manage this, the Qing created a land development system called Tuaken, land opening. Let me explain how it worked. Wealthy investors called Kengshou, land openers, applied for land use rights. These people hired tenant farmers, Kenghu, to clear the land. The farmers paid rent, and the land openers paid tax to the government. The land was then officially recognized, and the land openers became landlords, or owners. However, there was a major issue: the one field, two owners system. In many cases, one owner collected rent, the landlord. Another owner paid taxes, the title holder. This caused endless confusion and disputes. In indigenous lands, things got worse. Because indigenous people believed in communal ownership, Han settlers often took advantage of them, using tricks, false documents, or force to steal land. 4. Agricultural expansion and water projects. Despite the tensions, this period saw huge progress in farming and irrigation. Land development followed a clear pattern: south to north, west to east, and from lowlands to hills. Some major irrigation projects built during this time included Babao Canal in Zhanghua, Maowu Canal in Taichung, Lugong Canal in Taipei, Chaogong Canal in Kaohsiung. These projects were mostly privately funded, which shows the strong entrepreneurial spirit of Taiwan's early Han settlers. With more water, rice could be harvested 2 or even 3 times a year. This led to a major increase in food supply and population. 5. Han indigenous conflict and the Red Line. As Han settlers expanded into indigenous lands, the Qing feared ethnic conflict. To prevent this, they created the Tunniu Red Line, a boundary between Han areas and indigenous areas. Han settlers were not allowed to go beyond this line. But in reality, people ignored it. In 1724, the government officially allowed Han settlers to farm some indigenous land, as long as they got approval. However, because Han Chinese believed in private land ownership, and indigenous peoples followed communal systems, many conflicts broke out. Often, Han settlers ended up taking the land completely, using tricks or violence. 6.An unstable and divided society. By the early 1700s, Taiwan's population had exploded. People came from different parts of China, spoke different dialects, and had different customs. This led to frequent clan wars and gang fights, known as factional violence or group fights. The fighting usually happened for three reasons. 1. Economic competition, over land, water, or jobs. 2. Social divisions, due to different hometowns, accents, or traditions. 3. Lack of government control. The island was large, and local officials were corrupt or too weak to stop violence. In fact, Qing officials described Taiwan as a place where there was a small uprising every 3 years, and a big rebellion every 5 years. 7. Major rebellions in early Qing Taiwan. Let me quickly tell you about 3 of the biggest uprisings. 1721, the Zhu Yigui Rebellion. After years of corruption and tax abuse, Zhu Yigui, the duck farmer, led thousands of peasants in a rebellion. They even took control of Tainan briefly before being crushed by Qing forces. 1786, the Lin Shuangwen Rebellion. Lin, a member of a secret anti-Qing society, led one of the largest uprisings in Taiwanese history. He had over 100,000 supporters, and nearly overthrew the government. It took Qing armies from China over a year to put it down. 1862, the Dai Chao Chun Rebellion, another massive rebellion caused by land disputes, tax issues, and frustration with the government. Again, Qing forces had to fight hard to restore order. These rebellions showed that Qing control was always fragile, and Taiwan was always close to chaos. 8. Cultural development and identity formation. Despite these problems, the Qing also brought schools, temples, and Confucian values to Taiwan. They built academy schools, promoted the Chinese civil service exam, and encouraged traditional family values. In this way, Taiwan became more culturally Chinese, but still had its own frontier, spirit. Over time, many people began to see Taiwan as their true home, not just a place to make money. A local identity slowly began to form, loyal to Chinese culture, but also proud of being Taiwanese. Conclusion: the foundation of modern Taiwan. So, what was the early Qing period really about? It was a time of suspicion and control, as the Qing tried to keep order in a new land. Growth and expansion, with land, farming, and population all increasing. Conflict and instability, between settlers, indigenous groups, and the state. Cultural transformation, as Chinese traditions became rooted in Taiwan. Even though the Qing didn't treat Taiwan as a full part of the empire at first, their decisions during this early period shaped the island's future. They built the framework of government, started the patterns of land use, and introduced ideas of authority, culture, and resistance that still echo in Taiwan today.